Welcome. Thank you for joining us for another great session entitled Savannah River Site COVID-19 Impacts to Drills and Exercises and Resumption, presented by Michael Lewis, Amber Rodriguez, and Joshua Taylor. Michael Lewis has a 25-year background in emergency services operations, training, and continuing education as a critical care paramedic, with an emphasis in oversight and direction. After retiring from EMS, Michael transitioned into health and safety, focusing on fire protection and life safety, where his responsibilities included both the industrial and research and development settings. In his current role, Michael works as the lead for the Savannah River Site Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group, where he is responsible for drill and exercise program management for the Savannah River Site facilities and leading the planning, scheduling, and conduct facility and site emergency preparedness drills. Amber Rodriguez graduated from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse with a bachelor's in business management. After college, Amber joined the FEMA Corps and responded to disasters across the country. Thank you, Amber. After the year of service, she joined the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, where she worked for 3.5 years. During that time, she completed her master's in emergency management while responding to 8 disasters. She came to the Savannah River Site in December 2019 to be part of the Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group as the Principal Emergency Preparedness Coordinator. Currently, she serves as the lead controller for the Savannah River National Laboratory. Finally, Joshua Taylor has 30 years service in multiple disciplines of emergency services. That experience spans across fire, law enforcement, emergency communications, and emergency medical services, emergency service instruction, disaster response operations, and emergency services administration as deputy chief. In addition to Joshua's practical knowledge, he holds a Master of Public Policy and Public Administration degree from Liberty University and a Bachelor of Emergency Services Management from Anderson University. Joshua serves currently as the Principal Emergency Preparedness Specialist in the Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group and leads the drill program for the Spent Fuel Program at Savannah River Site. We're so grateful to have all three of you here. Just a note, if your chat is not working, we had a little issue in the Attentify app, and you may need to refresh your chat in order to post questions in that app. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome Michael, Amber, and Joshua. The virtual stage is yours.
Hello, I'm Michael Lewis. I'm one of the leads with the Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group at Savannah River Site. Today we're going to talk about the impacts of COVID on the Drills and Exercises program here at Savannah River Site. More specifically, how it changed the way we approached our drills and the conduct of those drills, eventually leading to the delivery of drills and exercises during a global pandemic. Before we get started, I'd like to provide a little bit of information about the Savannah River Site. We are a 310 square mile DOE site located in the Sandhills region of South Carolina. This encompasses parts of Aiken, Barnwell, and Allendale counties and bordered on the west by the Savannah River in the state of Georgia. The Savannah River Site is geographically located close to Augusta, Georgia, and about 70 miles from Columbia, South Carolina. Savannah River Nuclear Solutions has the responsibility for site management and operations. Under Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, the ERTEG, or the Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group, manages the drills and exercise program for the site, and ultimately numerous facilities and areas on the site. Annually, we take care of over 100 drills and exercises. This is in the form of facility operational drills, emergency preparedness drills that trigger an EAL, and evaluated annual exercises. Though the number is continually changing, currently ERTEG develops drills and exercises for 95 EALs impacting assigned facilities. The ERTEG is part of site training working in concert with site emergency management. In the simplest description, we execute the training, testing, and evaluation of the programmatic functions of the site emergency response organization. This is done through the management and execution of drills and exercises. Presently, ERTEG headcount consists of 14 full-time personnel. When conducting drills and exercises, our numbers are supplemented by facility personnel and emergency management EPCs, or emergency preparedness coordinators. Specific to ERTEG, we have a manager, a training advisor who also functions as our business manager that oversees the budget and the metrics, a drills and exercises lead that manages 6 lead controllers, and a scenario development lead that manages 4 scenario writers. Essentially, each facility has an assigned ERTEG primary point of contact for drills and exercises through a lead controller. Likewise, the scenario writers each have a primary facility that they are assigned to for scenario plan development. As we're aware, COVID-19 started to rear its ugly head at the beginning of last year. With this, I'd like to give some background on the COVID-related impacts associated with the drills and exercises here at Savannah Riverside. As we started experiencing the impacts of COVID here in South Carolina, we initially began looking at potential impacts related to drill and exercise cancellations and initiated a request through the DOE Savannah River Field Office to postpone drills and exercises through April 17, 2020. The initial thought process here was specifically directed at the ever-changing COVID social distancing requirements. On March 18th, DOE Savannah River concurred with this request, and the expectation was that ERO-related qualifications would be maintained through tabletop drills. Additionally, the decision would be reevaluated after 60 days. Shortly after this, a 120-day qualification extension was authorized in order to maintain qualifications and certifications for site personnel. In April, we received site direction to maximize teleworking due to continued rise in COVID cases on site and to help flatten the curve. This was initially planned to last 2 weeks, after which additional guidance was received to completely cancel all drills and exercises until August 31st, 2020. Simultaneously, the site issued clarifications related to the extension of qualifications for 120 days. And because of the emergent conditions surrounding the COVID-19 response, normal extension requirements were waived. Simply put, every effort was going to be used to ensure qualifications were maintained in accordance with approved procedures. But extensions were also granted to minimize the impact of recovery. For the next several months, ERTEG shifted our focus from the conduct of drills and exercises to the development of a scenario plan library. Let's face it, we had 95 EALs we needed to develop scenarios for. In August, ERTEG received an extension to the drills cancellation through January 2021. At this point, it was clear that we needed to find a way to adapt. With the continued rise in COVID cases, all efforts to flatten the curve on site were simply not working. This was essentially no end in sight to the qualification extensions being granted. With this, we began looking at current technology available to conduct drills and exercises if need be, virtually, and developed a formal recovery plan that incorporated a crawl, walk, run approach. Additionally, we received concurrence that allowed conduct of virtual drills. In September, ERTEG finalized our resumption plan, as well as the 2021 fiscal year drill and exercise schedule. During our scheduling, we focused on an eventual, though unknown date to return to normal drills and exercises with the flexibility to conduct any of those virtually if necessary. And in October, we began our drill schedule implementing the crawl aspect of our 3-phase crawl, walk, run approach to resuming normal activities. We'll talk more about that in a moment because in December, we received yet another extension to the cancellation of large-scale drills through April 2021. At that point, it would be over a year since some people have stepped foot on site. Finally, in April 2021, ERTEG received its most current drill cancellation, which included the cancellation of exercises until the site returns to normal operations. At this point, it's still unclear when we will return to normal operations or what that will even look like. But as you can see, this is a long time to go without drills and training for emergency response organizations within the facilities and on site. Therefore, it was imperative to find a way to train and develop personnel safely during this pandemic. COVID has affected many things in our life for the past year, but one thing ERTEG was determined to preserve was the capability of the site ERO to respond to an emergency. Now that we've reviewed how things panned out with the disruption of drills and exercises during the height of COVID-19, let's begin to look at the approach we took to conducting drills and exercises during the pandemic. Initially, ERTEG coordinated drill activities and provided support to facilities through ERO training and the conduct of virtual tabletop drills to allow ERO personnel to train in their current roles, responsibilities, and expectations for emergency response actions. This enabled key positions to requalify as necessary, with the initial focus being personnel who were currently qualified and existing ERO qualifications that had been extended. All of these were considered the crawl phase of the return to drills. Following completion of those training evolutions, limited scope field drills would begin as the walk portion to further aid in training and requalification efforts of facility ERO personnel. Just as the transition from virtual tabletop drills to limited scope field drills did, this phase of training would be followed by full field play drills that are more complex in emergency response and control, with outside facility resources required. Examples of these resources may include the Savannah Riverside Fire Department, Protective Forces, and the Savannah Riverside Operations Center, as well as a full complement of drill controllers. Additionally, implementation of full field play drills incorporate a resumption of an ERO candidate's ability to begin seeking initial qualification, as well as all previous focus was on maintaining or requalifying personnel impacted by the suspension of activities and the subsequent qualification extensions. Following successful implementation of full field play drills and after satisfactorily reviewing drill conduct, the final phase, or the run phase, will be implemented, ending with the conduct of annual exercises. These represent the highest level of response complexity with no coaching permitted. Fiscal year to date, we've conducted 72 drills using this approach. This includes 11 in October, 12 in November, 5 in December, and we finished the first quarter with 28 drills completed. Then, as we ramped up and really got our feet under us and comfortable with the new virtual platform, we conducted 48 drills from January through May. Currently, with the ability to relax some of the COVID-related restrictions directly linked to COVID-19 vaccine and the reduction of cases impacting the site, we've been able to begin a return to field play drills. We've conducted 9 drills during the month of June. Currently, we're planning to conduct all remaining drills for fiscal year 21 as field play drills. Josh Taylor will speak more to that in a moment. But one huge hurdle we had to overcome during this whole process was the implementation of a completely new platform for our drill team, that of virtual delivery. And to be honest, we had some that embraced the new challenge and some that were very reluctant to perform those drills. Our facilities, while eager to begin conducting drills again, were also hesitant to accept the new platform. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Amber Rodriguez, who's going to discuss the implementation of the virtual drills.
Thanks, Mike. As he mentioned, my name is Amber Rodriguez, and I'm the Principal Emergency Preparedness Specialist, serving as a lead controller for Savannah River National Laboratory. As Mike mentioned, ERTEG started refining scenarios and developing the virtual tabletops the beginning of April 2020. While developing the virtual tabletops, we really had 4 main objectives in mind. The first one, we wanted to train and implement facility ERO requirements and expectations. We wanted to ensure personnel felt prepared to respond to an emergency should one arise. We did want to allow for detailed discussions of applicable actions during the emergency event. This was important as we were unable to be in person. We wanted to make sure we had detailed discussions on what the facility responders would do. We also wanted to maintain the quality of training utilizing the virtual platform. Our team went in with a less stressful environment to allow for some critical thinking on how the ERO members would respond, and we wanted to ensure personnel received the same level of knowledge as they would from a regular field drill. And of course, we wanted to requalify key ERO positions. ERTEG started with minimal essential personnel to refamiliarize everyone with drillsmanship and the emergency procedures. We also needed to train personnel on the use of Microsoft Teams. We transitioned from Skype to Microsoft Teams right as we were rolling out the virtual drills. Therefore, we had to refamiliarize everyone with the new software as well as the new drill platform. We formatted the drill in more of a question and answer type forum to get the personnel to talk through something that they typically would do without even thinking about it. So for example, the ISC would say that they arrived on scene. We We want them to explain the route that they would take and why. Also, if they were unsure of the route they should take, who could they contact? Additionally, if RPD is performing a contaminated firefighter dress down, we want to make sure they are talking through the steps they would take in the hot, warm, and cold zones. We started to incorporate more facility responder positions, as well as the fire department and protective force, to allow for a little bit more realism. Eventually, we were able to give the personnel the initiating message, and they would flow through the drill with minimal controller interaction. So here is a slide from our virtual tabletops. This slide is for a drill that takes place in solid waste. In the upper corner, you will see the wind conditions we set for the drill. We like to use canned wind conditions for these drills so we can better anticipate player actions. Make sure everyone is on the same page, and sometimes we can force conversations about safe routes and protective actions. A great example of this we actually had in one facility that had a jersey barrier blocking one of the vehicle entrances, so that way the only way the vehicle could enter was through the main gate. We ended up making the main gate downwind from the incident. This created a good discussion with the fire department on assessing if they had the time and the ability to remove that jersey barrier, or if they needed to dress out prior to going through the gate, so that way they could get to that injured person faster. Below the wind conditions, you can see all the positions that could potentially participate. Each of these are linked to the position descriptions as described in the site emergency response plan. Since we are limiting the number of positions, the lead controller could click on one of these links and review that position. So for example, if the first aid team was not participating, the lead controller would click on the position and it would take them to that description. Here's a description for the first aid team. The first aid team would ensure that the victim is in a safe place. They would provide immediate first aid or CPR. They would provide a turnover to EMS and then assist EMS as needed. By covering this information, the players participating are still able to hear what would happen in the other venues. We identified this as a major incentive to the virtual tabletops because typically other venues would not be able to see or hear what is occurring at the incident scene or in the control room. Once we are done, we can click on the link at the bottom of the slide that brings us back to the main slide. There are also links at the bottom of the slide for the contamination visual aid as represented on the Radman and the job performance aid map. That is used to identify key areas and facility features such as rally points, shelters, and assembly areas. These links can be referenced at any time throughout the drill. For the Radman, the player can earn this information by saying they would survey the personnel at the incident scene. The lead controller or the moderator would then click on the Radman link. The picture would appear and RPD would report what they found. So for this scenario, RPD personnel surveyed the fork truck driver and found contamination on the shoes, pants, and lower part of the back of the shirt. This is a good visual aid for RPD since they're unable to physically perform those surveys. This helps them better communicate this information to the control room and better explain how they would contain or remove that contamination. We would then click on the link again at the bottom of the slide, which brings us back to that main slide. Once the lead controller is ready to start the drill, they will read the initiating incident from the scenario, and the moderator will assist with the animations. So I'm going to read through the initiating incident for the scenario, and you can see the visual aids we use to assist those players. So this incident takes place on one of the pads, so we're going to zoom in on that. The fork truck driver is transporting 4 true waste containers onto the pad in preparation for shipment to WIP. As the fork truck is entering the pad, a snake drops down from the roof of the fork truck onto the driver's arm. The driver panics and loses control of the fork truck. The fork truck grazes the spotter, causing a laceration from the leg and mild bleeding. The fork truck crashes into the electrical power line on the wall. The crash causes the drum to rupture, exposing waste, and the electrical short causes the fork truck to catch on fire. The fire engulfs the fork truck and spreads to the drums involving the exposed waste. The driver and the first line manager aid the spotter in exiting the building, and they contact Savannah River Site Operations Center. RPD and the first aid team are then dispatched to the scene. Once the lead controller is done, a recap of the scenario will appear for the players to reference at any time. From here, we will begin drill play. We try to use as many visual aids as possible using the technology that is available to us to assist with the realism and that urgency of the drill play. In April 2021, we started performing limited facility operational drills in the field. This allowed for personnel to get hands-on experience, but in a safe way. This picture is of a field drill that took place on April 14th. As you can see, we were able to maintain our social distancing and utilize our proper PPE. We also utilized a mannequin for our injured person to provide the hands-on experience for first aid, but without getting too close to another person. We received great feedback from facility management, players, and DOE. Since April, we have completed 12 in-person drills. Each time we try to build on the complexity and number of personnel participating. However, we are limited to 5 personnel per venue, which has created some obstacles when briefing and dispatching facility responders from the control room. After we complete an in-person drill, we document the precautions we took in a management field observation. The precautions we identify consist of social distancing, group sizes, hygiene, ventilation and cooling, vehicle observations, and face coverings. We also coordinated with the Emergency Management Department to train the Technical Support Room on Web EOC remote access, as well as how to respond to an event virtually. We conducted the trainings for each shift within the facilities and plan to start incorporating them into our drills again in the near future. We also plan to continue to perform these limited and targeted drills to train the facility ERO while still being safe. Currently, the lead controllers are working with the facility emergency preparedness coordinators to coordinate contaminated firefighter dress down. We are also expanding these drills to incorporate emergency preparedness drills that involve classification while still maintaining that 5 personnel per module guidance. As with everything we do, we always have lessons learned. I'm going to turn it over to Joshua Taylor to discuss what we've learned this past year as well as our future strategies.
Thank you, Amber. I'm Joshua Taylor. I'm a Principal Emergency Preparedness Specialist and Lead Controller with the Savannah River Nuclear Solutions Emergency Response Training and Evaluation Group. As with all things emergency preparedness and management, there are always best practices and lessons learned. After combating COVID and looking for and finding some innovative ways to continue the cycle of training and proficiency, we have received very positive feedback after conducting 66 virtual drills and 18 field drills to date. As mentioned by Amber, we conducted virtual drills and then field drills once restrictions began to relax a little bit. Things we did well include utilization of tools and technology at our disposal. This created a challenge to begin with due to the limitations of the Skype platform. However, after transitioning to Microsoft Teams, we were able to effectively integrate our virtual drills into each facility. We also did well with adapting to the continuous changes and guidance of COVID and technology, which ensured a safe, positive environment for drills and training. It also provided the opportunity for facility personnel to hear conversations that happen all at once to see what other areas' needs may be to develop a mutual understanding of a common operating picture. Some things that we could improve on: we had an early issue with the available communications resources on site through the use of a single conference line and the clarity of participants that were speaking. Once we were able to switch to the Microsoft Teams platform, communications was noted to be much smoother and afforded consistent volume and less interference between personnel participating in the virtual drill. Certain security criteria initially limited the option to use audio and video equipment. Because of this, we were not allowed to fully integrate the Teams capability through the use of webcams and microphones in the limited areas. After a short period, the site relaxed some of the limitations, updated security measures to allow both headsets, microphones, and cameras. Finally, introducing outside controllers in the facilities had the potential to introduce COVID. We're actively seeking additional facility-provided controllers to help supplement our resources and the ability to perform drills. Moving forward, facilities will be providing more controllers. This cuts down on outside personnel entering the facility and the possibility of someone from outside of the facility introducing pathogens or germs. ERTEG is made up of a group of very smart and passionate people. We're always looking for ways to improve our drills, make it a valuable experience for the players. We want the players to walk away feeling as if the drill was fun, but also worthwhile. Some things we're looking at expanding are utilizing Microsoft Teams breakout rooms in the virtual setting, and if we can separate the different drill venues, such as the control room, the incident scene, and the SRS operations center, we think it'll make the virtual drill more realistic with how communications would actually flow. We also see the opportunity to engage off-site personnel, such as the county and state EOCs. Microsoft Teams makes it much easier for off-site personnel to participate in assisting us in building those relationships with our county and state response partners before an incident occurs. We do have plans to continue to use the virtual platform in the future and expand its capabilities. As can be seen in the slide images, we are constantly evaluating new technology and implementing advanced drill simulations and props during the conduct of field drills. This began with specialized fire training equipment and props used by both facility responders as well as the fire department responders that now use digital hose nozzles, weighted hose, and interactive smoke generators that respond to mitigation efforts to enhance drill play. Deployment of this new technology and equipment is currently underway, which will be deployed for field play drills beginning in August. Because of COVID, we're about a year behind our original implementation plan after taking ownership of this equipment and then had to place everything on hold due to COVID. Some other considerations that will take more time in development are developing virtual reality training and computer scenario-based simulations. If COVID did one thing to benefit us in the long term, it got us out of our comfort zone and forced us to think outside the box and expand on what we have been doing. We continue to be excited about the enhancements for our drill and exercises here at Savannah River Site and look forward to sharing these successes. We're appreciative of any feedback or suggestions that you may have, and all three are available for questions and provide additional information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, Amber, and Joshua, for a great presentation. That was so good. And we're so glad that the chat is back up and working. We do have a comment from Shannon saying she concurs with Amber about being able to hear what others in the field are doing during the drill. It's very helpful to hear what would be occurring within the facility. And you can read the rest of that. But I'm watching the chat. We're glad it's up and working again. And so we're watching for some questions. And if you have one, just go ahead and put it in the chat. And as we're waiting for that, I'm just going to go over to you, Michael and Joshua. I think Amber's had a little technical difficulties. She might be back on in just a minute. Just for any closing remarks or things that you might want to add.
So really, we've had to make some adjustments of late. Within the last 2 weeks, we have had a resurgence of COVID cases on site. We've had to scale back our original approach to conducting everything in field play moving forward for the rest of the fiscal year. Just last week, we implemented a return to virtual drills for a 2-week period. And then we are limiting field participation to 5 personnel per venue with the goal of, again, just focusing on those key ERO positions that may be nearing either qualification expiration or the need to qualify for the first time using that field play drill. Josh, what else can you think of that we've adjusted?
So right now, that's all just the main thing of moving back toward the virtual platform and limiting the personnel when we do and are allowed to do field drills.
And that's really something that I think that, a takeaway that we've had from this as we begin our planning for fiscal year 22 is the ability to adjust on the fly. We really see the COVID impacts to the drills and exercises really going to ebb and flow. It's going to come and go, and we're going to have to adjust our ability and the platform that we're conducting these drills on really continually throughout the year. We foresee all of our drills and exercises that we have planned, the need to possibly adjust and conduct those either limited in scope or the potential for doing those virtually. So we're constantly coming up with backup plans should we run into a case like that.
Well, so great that you're able to do all that. Such serious times we're living in. I had a question about the snake and the fork truck. Did the guy, was he okay? What kind of snake bit him?
That one is one that we actually had. We've had several snakes from forklifts that have been found on forklifts. I don't think we've had one actually bite someone yet, but it was something that we determined to be plausible. And honestly, I think the picture that we used in the presentation is actually a non-venomous. So we definitely don't want to throw anyone into a panic.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So I would like to add that scenario came about due to an actual incident of a snake falling off a roll-up door in our solid waste facility on top of a forklift, but of course it rolled off on the ground.
Oh my gosh. One other question came in. It looks like Lori Thomas is saying communications during the best of times is always a vulnerability during routine exercises. Please tell us how Savannah Riverside has improved its communication redundancy for virtual communications.
So that's one that we again had to adjust on the fly. Initially, when we started the virtual tabletop drills, we were using conference nets and conference lines. We quickly had to adjust because just from a technology standpoint, they weren't able to handle the volume of people, both participants and observers, because there was a lot of interest in what we were doing because this was brand new to the site. So we actually transitioned from those conference nets to the Microsoft Teams, and actually found that Microsoft Teams was very beneficial for us to accommodate those. We do have some restrictions that Site Information Technologies have put on us with regard to the use of Microsoft Teams, and while we don't have all of the features, those are being loosened as we go and continue to use those. Probably one of the biggest and most beneficial things we see moving forward, I think Josh alluded to it earlier, and that was the use of breakout rooms. And we plan on using those more and more moving forward to allow for those areas that would typically be going on concurrently to actually pause, have those go out into those breakout rooms, have those discussions that are going to take place, and then bring everyone back together in one location.
Great point. Yeah, boy, flexibility, so key, isn't it? I'm looking for another question. Patty Billy says we should ask Amber about the snake. I think we talked about the snake, but Amber, yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just love snakes so much. No, I don't like snakes at all. Every time we use this scenario, I get the heebie-jeebies.
That's funny. Yeah. I can't believe some people have those snakes as pets, and I wouldn't either. My daughter-in-law would never come to my house if I had a snake for a pet. Any closing comments from either of you, any of you? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
It's definitely something as we continue to plan our path forward and the use of technology and new tools and new resources and things. If you have things going on at your sites, we are definitely interested in what you're doing and encourage you to, if you'd like to make a trip out to Savannah Riverside and see what we're doing and some of the exciting things we've got going on, we certainly invite you out to join us.
Well, that'd be fun. Joshua, anything?
No, ma'am. I think everybody's covered everything.
So appreciate all of you being here. Thank you for a great presentation. We all learned so much from each other. Well, this concludes our session. As a reminder, this has been recorded. This session, Savannah Riverside COVID-19 Impacts to Drills and Exercises and Resumption, will be available for your playback at your convenience. Remember to complete the survey. That confirms your attendance and gives us a good count of who's been here. And we're going to look forward to our next session by Kip Holdridge and Michael Weber, entitled Seeing the Forest for the Trees, Developing a Common Operational Picture. This afternoon at 4 o'clock, join us for some fun as we have the scavenger hunt in the social hour. And we'd love to see you there. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.